Cheers, guys. Epix911, welcome to the Elitist Geek VR news for Friday, November 4th, 2016. That can only mean one thing. It is
Game and
Friday. Cheers, bro.
Cheers.
All right, guys. Let's jump into a bit of preamble. Actually, quite a bit of preamble. All VR related and lots of news today. Holy smokes, it has been a busy Friday. Let's start with the next video that I have planned, which is either going to be later tonight or sometime tomorrow. I've had a few people request a top 10 video. I was thinking about the best way to do that game-wise, of course, VR games. And really to stay true to the spirit of the channel, I'm going to do a top 10 overall. Doesn't mean I won't do the others at some point, but an overall top 10 I think makes the most sense. And then, yeah, statistically, I suppose you can draw from that which has the most games that I enjoy. So that'll be neat even for myself to go through that exercise later tonight or sometime tomorrow. Now, Valkyrie. This was a game I announced was going to be on PlayStation VR after, of course, being on the Rift. One of the lead designers, Andrew Williams, at CCP, has basically said it's been almost a tsunami of additional players since Valkyrie launched on the PlayStation VR. It also seems to have had the dual effect of not just bringing more players in, but having a lot of the PC gamers back playing because of the added population. So really good news on that it would have that kind of synergistic effect. This next game has me super excited, guys. It's called Soulkeeper VR, and there's been talk of this game for a year. Absolutely. There's been some demos shown. I completely forgot about it until research today, seeing some updated footage. Now, this thing, if this game can deliver, anywhere close to what it's showing on the videos being representative of what you can expect in the gameplay, sign me up. I cannot wait. It looks freaking amazing. Check out the link below, guys, and take a look at the footage. Let me know what you think. But this thing looks kind of like Skyrim quality graphically. I know that's not saying a lot from a 2011 game, but hey, modded, that game can look pretty damn good. And that's along the lines of what this looks like. Also, some disappointment. A lot of people who'd been looking forward to the free Call of Duty Jackal VR have expressed their disappointment, basically saying it's very, very short. And I've already said, hey, free, fine, whatever length, but really short, 5 to 7 minutes. Of course, others who don't have that complaint, but the fact that that is something that people are being pretty vocal about has me really curious. I'm going to definitely try that as soon as I have it and see, if I agree with what a lot of the comments are. So 5 to 7 minutes and feeling like a demo as opposed to a game, and very disjointed from the Call of Duty universe, which kind of makes sense given it's a space game, but hey. Let's jump into the news now. And some good news for Australian viewers of this channel. And you probably heard this given the time zone differences before I did. But if you haven't, it has been announced by Jimmy Feng, Chief of Staff to the CEO at HTC, that starting November 18th, Australian stores Harvey Norman and JB Hi-Fi Store are both going to be carrying the HTC Vive bundle. Pricing, it's a bit of a doozy, guys. $13.99 Australian. For anyone who's interested, that's about just over $1,000 US, close to $1,100 actually. And he also mentions, or rather one of the other execs, Raymond Powell, who's a VP, mentioned that they will have demonstration locations available at the stores, plus an online booking system. Now, what makes me a little nervous about that, the booking sounds a lot like they're going to go down the UK path of charging, which I hope is not the case. Granted, some of you brought up some decent reasons for it, but still overall, I don't like it. I don't think you should do that with demos, period. If it's set up like an arcade where you can play commercial games, absolutely charge for it. But free demos, I don't buy into that at all. PlayStation VR Teardown. So the folks at iFixit, and I've showed some of their work before on the channel for namely the Rift and the Vive. You may or may not recall that the Vive actually scored the highest in terms of repairability. Oh, sorry. It was actually second highest, 8 out of 10. The OSVR open source unit actually scored highest, which makes sense. It's supposed to be a do-it-yourself unit. The Rift lower. Well, the Sony PlayStation VR comes in matching the Vive. So tied for second in terms of ease of repairability. And that has to do with how the components are installed. Is it a massive maze, tangled, twisting cables? Are there all kinds of different parts and things that you have to take into account, etc.? Now, what was interesting is we did see this teardown before. So it was actually done about a month ago. Takamasa Araki, he took a look. He stopped at the lenses because the lenses are glued in. iFixit took it beyond that. They used a hot gun to loosen up the glue and take the lenses out. And I'm going to post a picture here of a couple of, the different stages of the teardown. And you're going to see that they use a dome shape, the lenses, which I thought was neat. A conventional dome shape. Unlike the Fresnel lenses that the Rift use, and obviously the Vive to even a greater degree. That would seem, and I agree with the author on this, to indicate why the PlayStation VR has the least God ray effect. So absolutely, I would agree with that. He also points out, and I actually stated this, I hadn't seen others comment on it much, but that statement I made when I did my 48 hours where I basically said, actually it was the initial one, I didn't really notice a screen door effect on the PlayStation VR. And yeah, he basically agreed that that's possibly due to that, right? That lens design not amplifying. Here is the most interesting part of the teardown. Guess whose screen it is? My initial hunch, honestly, was Sony proprietary. Sony loves to do that, right? Go proprietary. No, it looks like it's a Samsung screen. Now, far from feeling good for Samsung, yeah, it's great. They're in the Rift, they're in the Vive, they're in the PlayStation. They certainly have a monopoly in terms of supplying parts for those guys. But factor in the Note 7, factor in the washing machine recall, and yeah, this won't be enough to help them, right? They're going to really take a fiscal pounding. Absolutely. Next news story, a VR Days conference, and it's a major one, major European event, is going to be taking place in Amsterdam, and that's going to be this month. The exact quote, so November 3rd through 6th, actually, so it's ongoing right now. Conference passes are sold out, but single tickets are still available. Now, from the organizers themselves, so take it with a grain of salt, here's how they describe the event. We're building bridges to inspire, from fine arts to finance, psychology to porn, theater to tech, games to politics. Enjoy a fulminant multidisciplinary cocktail at VR Days Europe, as we invite the brightest minds and global visionaries to cutting-edge technology. So there you have it. I believe there's 60 exhibition booths, so do check that out if you are around. And come on, it's just a high-speed rail trip away for many of you who live in adjoining countries. Granted, a little costly, but hey, definitely could be a nice weekend trip. Next news story, the Pico Neo headset. Kind of a clever take on standalone VR. This comes to us from TheVerge.com. And the company that creates the Pico VR is a Chinese company, so it's no surprise that they're Chinese to begin with, given the number of HMDs we know have been developed, are in the process of being developed, and are being planned for future development. China has been just literally going crazy in manufacturing HMDs. Now, this Pico unit has a controller that looks a lot like the PS Vita controller. a lot of the action, the processor, Snapdragon 820 is in the controller. 4 gigs of RAM, 32 gigs of storage, micro SD compatibility, 1200 by 1080 per eye, 90 hertz refresh, Gear VR field of view, pretty much on par of 102 degrees. So again, if you're sensitive to field of view, you're going to notice it here likely. Now, they do say the unfortunate thing with the Pico is the fact that it's tethered via the controllers. So, but anyways, link is here. Check it out. And yeah, no word on the price either that I was able to find. Next news article, Lyrobotix. This was actually a story I was going to talk about yesterday, but ran out of time for my research. Figured it wasn't hugely pressing. It would just serve as a carryover in case it was slow, which it hasn't been. But Lyrobotix has merged ultrasonic technology that they've been working on with lighthouse-like technology for portable positional VR tracking. Now, the author strongly suspects that they're only using the ultrasound portion to do some distance measurements as opposed to have it do active tracking. So not sure, that's just his guess because he personally doesn't see what the viability would be of using both. Certainly one, but both for the same thing. And not saying I agree or disagree, I don't know. I'd have to find out much more about the device, test it, get more accurate specs, but I would, at least at this point, given what I've been able to see and read, would agree with the author on that. Now, yet another Chinese all-in-one VR headset called Idealens. The main thing this has going for it is, the author states it, but you got to admit by looking at it, it looks damn comfortable. It's got a really nice design. Part of me wants to say PlayStation-esque, but I think you'll agree, not really when you see the picture. But you can tell by looking that it looks fairly comfortable. And like I said, the author who tried it agrees. Now, their claim to fame with this device, the Chinese company, is that they claim a 3-second to use time. In other words, from grabbing it off the shelf to putting it on your head to being ready to go, 3 seconds. Call me a bit skeptical because we're probably assuming it's booted up already. But who knows? With solid state, I mean, that's a possibility. It could literally boot up that quick. So it's called the Idealens K2, 295 grams all in. So that puts it as, you know, almost on par with the Gear VR without a mobile phone in it, because of course that adds weight the second you add a phone to it. Now, where things get a little dicey for me with this company is, and you got to love their descriptions. And like I said, I love English, not just as a source of amusement, but just the things that you can come up with, you know, with word order. Check this out. Them describing their field of view. Prepare to be amazed in the visual fantasy powered by our world-leading dynamic optical algorithm of distortion correction. Wow. But that's not the best. The best one is their tagline right at the end where they say, only the perfect design may present you the world's perfection. So...
well, I'm fucking sold.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And they call it the T1000 tracking system. So there you go. Next up, not an HMD, this time VRMOtions Amazing Flexible Cockpit. Now, I'd looked at this a few months ago when it was in much earlier stages, and they hadn't revealed everything that they've revealed the last couple of days. But this is, without a doubt, guys, for me, the dream cockpit, period. The fact that you can use it both in VR and standalone due to the design is win, win, win. Check it out. I'm going to have a few pictures up, but there's a couple of configurations you can use. The initial default configuration would be having 3 monitors up. You're playing a game that's not VR, or maybe you just don't want to play it in VR. Spread that across, right? Racing games without VR support, perfect. However, you can also remove the monitors, hell, probably keep them on still, and go into their VR mode, which, again, to me, brilliant. It's an awesome racing style chair that they have in there. I could see this being used. There's also hydraulics, so there'll be a video, the link that I leave in the description, but whether you're racing cars, flying spaceships in Elite, or hopefully one day Star Citizen, they got you covered on all angles. Seriously, guys, this may be a purchase for me. You know, like some of the other stuff we've talked about in the past, there's just no way I would do it. Like one of the, motion systems, forget the name right now, just way too bulky and unpractical. And yeah, just not worth it. This, however, oh, I could make some use for this. Of course, we don't know the price. They haven't announced that yet. Likely a very hefty price tag. All right, guys, that is it for the news today on this Friday. As always, cheers, and definitely catch you on the VR flip side.